I think it's inherent on us to build privacy and security into our entire process, into our product and our platform. And so, we are ISO 27001 certified. We're going to be SOC 2 certified very soon. And that means just having the governance around what we're doing, using in understanding the attack vectors from everywhere, from on the device. So having really strong device management through to the data. I mean, we're a data powered business. So, how we encrypt data in flight or at rest in our databases, through to, secure socket layers of when the data is in movement, and in turn, how then that business is able to, or individual is able to give us access to their bank account to execute a payment. And all of those things, I think if you think about all those different attack vectors and really try and sort of reduce the risk in each one of those vectors, in each one of those stages of the full product lifecycle and user lifecycle, then I think you can at least be on the good foot and try to stay ahead of the fraudsters as much as possible.
There's sometimes where things like biometrics, obviously appear great, but ultimately maybe aren't. Whereas some of the other kind of hidden behavioral analysis, things like, I don't know if anyone knows the call sign product, which again in the more mobile space, looks at the way you're holding it and your movement and uses the sensors in a cleverer way to create a kind of fingerprint pattern. So I think there's a real opportunity for in-life management of customers around cyclical checks, but also around dramatic spikes in behavioral change. And I think that's one kind of revolution where the data, to Mark's point, the data kind of moving in and out and being shared, and the profiling of what a normal customer looks like to your business can really be quite a powerful tool. And we're certainly not there yet. I mean, there's a long way to go in most organizations' use of that type of intelligence. But I think it's certainly coming. The capability is increasing all the time. And so yeah, I was thinking more about in use and in life customer management and those kind of trend checks and behavioral checks that more customers and more kind of industries, frankly, should probably look to manage.
So the advertising industry, which I had the pleasure of working in to some degree over the last 20 years, has really used data very well and in a very clever way. When you talk about motivation, they're very motivated to drive up revenue by using as much data as they can. And so let's be very clear, Google and Apple and the developers on their platforms know everything about you and your phone. By default, you have to opt out of the advertising ID that is on your phone, which basically tracks every single piece of usage, every app you use, where you've been, everything on your phone. So I think it's really interesting if you use that in the financial services context around fraud. I think there are some interesting things you can do because you basically know the behavior of the individual on the other end of the phone. And so we're trying to pull from these different industries and applying it to the likes of financial services, I think is a really, really good idea. And I think I further what John's saying, that is critical for understanding fraud.
And authentication more generally is becoming, I think, more difficult even in the pandemic. If we think about not only are people moving to devices, but a lot of the behavior analysis that we have done, or a lot of the machine learning techniques that people have deployed, were done on behaviors pre-COVID, right? They were done on behaviors that were really established before the pandemic blew up, which is completely made it divergent, but introduced more volumes. So with more noise, it's easier for fraudsters to try to get through the noise, but also has to introduce new behavior patterns to these machine learning algorithms that have grown up, if you will, and matured pre it. So I know a lot of companies are trying to come to terms with that and trying to put implementation measures in or stopgaps to try to help mitigate it around. But I think it's really interesting time to see what disruption and what behavioral patterns can do to these systems. And even though we might think that we are at one point comfortable, they're only as comfortable as we are normative. So it's kind of interesting to see how they adapt.